When life throws you a curveball, how are you going to handle adversity? Welcome to the Fearless Mindset Podcast, where you're about to go on a journey as I interview security, business, and entertainment leaders on what it takes to stay fearless. I'm your host, Mark Ledlow, and enjoy today's episode.
Hello, everybody. Yep, this is Mark Ledlow here with the magnificent Tim Wenzel in the Midwest.
What's going on, man?
Here I am at a hotel. I've been on the road for 3 weeks. I'm at the, where am I? The Virgin Hotel, my favorite hotel off the strip. Had some business stuff to take care of, and that's why the background is different. So here we are making things work on the road, working anyway, right?
Hey, you got to do it. I mean, we all travel, and you can't just travel for work and leave your thought leadership to the side. I mean, it's a part of who you are. So you just got to get it done on the road. Let's go.
Get it done on the road. Exactly. It doesn't stop. It does not stop.
Cheers.
I'm in silence. Cheers. I got my, I don't drink Coke, but today I am the little dragon.
You know what? We had the Capri Suns in the fridge. And I was like, we had kids over, and I was like, look at that.
But folks, we're kind of going to chat about leadership a little bit. And Tim and I had a good conversation over at the GSX in Dallas. That was like, it was like Vegas on steroids all over again with GSX. And anyway, Tim wanted me to share with the audience my perspective. And at first, guys, I wasn't going to go to GSX. I just never really heard anything really, earth-shattering about attending a technology conference with security. It's usually, IPSB, ATAP, and all that. But Tim and I got on a call, and he's going to be there. It's like, dude, come on, have some fun.
Yeah, I was like, you know what? Why don't we meet in person? Let's get this done.
So Tim kind of pushed me over the edge. I'd have to say Tim's conversation with me said, I'm going to go make some new friends.
Right.
And create some connections. And I have to say, folks, I had a blast. The most fun of any conference I've ever been to, bar none, was with Tim and Lee and the Tender Kindness Games folks. They just made the experience. It was like a big party all week. Believe it or not.
Well, I'm glad you had that experience, man. When we talked afterwards, you said that it reinvigorated your passion for the industry and for your role and everything. I'd love to hear about how hanging out with our crew did that for you, because not that I want to elevate myself or Lee, like we don't actually really care about that. But when we choose to lead in a different way, it impacts people on a different level. And the experience that you had, that can happen to a degree. It's happening throughout the security industry right now.
Yeah, for me, I think I was my own worst enemy. And I had a story in my head that wasn't really true. And until I got around you and Lee and go, wait a minute, what am I so hung up on? A thought, a perspective that's not really true of who these individuals are that are attending this conference. And just the energy, I think it was the energy that you and Lee brought to the table, the hugs, having fun with fellow peers and making this fun, not so black and white rigid, the old guard way of doing things.
Right.
It was like, let's have a blast. Let's get to know each other. Let's hang out. Let's get to know people as people versus professionals. And that's what attracted me. Lee's hugging everybody. And we're security folks. We're alpha personality. We don't do that stuff here. Well, guess what? The new generation is attracted to that. And that's who's taking over the new positions. And you got to be welcoming. And for me, it was getting over the ego, checking the ego at the door as I walked in. And my thought was, Mark, how can I be a servant in this industry versus just being a leader? How can I serve? What I saw with you and Lee was you guys were serving your new community that you guys developed 3 years ago when you guys first met in Chicago.
Yeah, Lee and we had a conversation before GSX this year. And I said, look, man, like it's fun to go to a conference. We're going to meet a few hundred new people. People come looking for us, which is pretty awesome. But why are we going? It's not for us. It's not to elevate ourselves. I mean, we actually, we like to meet people. We like to hear stories. We like to engage with the security industry. We like to talk about topics that people aren't discussing. We did a leadership talk. I said, why? But I've been getting LinkedIn messages for like 4 months prior. Hey, Tim, it's my first time to GSX. Do you have any tips? Hey, Tim, I'd love to meet you and Lee if possible. Hey, Tim, I know you know these people in the industry. Do you think while we're at GSX, you could introduce us? Hey, Tim, hey, Tim, hey, Tim. And Lee was getting these things as well. And I said, look, there's just not enough hours in that week to do this. So why don't we put together a WhatsApp group? We'll put in 15 to 20 actual tenured people in the security industry, people that are the Kindness Games alumni or who support the Kindness Games and our ideas. And then let's add 80 people who are coming for their first time, who do not feel like they have a good network, who are transitioning from the military or the feds, law enforcement, who want to come to this conference, but they kind of feel lost and they don't really understand how to make the most out of this conference. And we added you to that group. And so for 2 weeks leading up to the conference, that group was on fire. You know, everybody now had each other's phone numbers. Everybody was sending messages. Everybody was asking questions. Hey, how do we use the LinkedIn QR codes as a way to network instead of handing out business cards? Like, what are the best practices for conferences? What are the events worth going to around this conference? And Lee and I published a public schedule of places that we were going to be, whether it was some of the events, whether it was some of the talks that were going on at GSX that we were going to be attending. And we were letting people know where we were going to be so that people could come meet us and people could talk to us, because it's just so busy. There's so many people that I'm good friends with that I never even saw at GSX. That's how busy it was. And then with this group, it was like, hey, I'm having lunch. Here's where I'm going. Anybody who wants to come can meet up. And so we were engaging this group of 100 people throughout the conference. That way, people could just know where somebody was going to be. They knew who was going to be at which events. And the feedback that we got at the end of the conference from some of these people were like, you know, I've been to conferences before, and this is by far the best GSX or best security conference I've ever been to because I was part of a community. This was my first time to GSX or first time to a security conference. And to be honest, I was overwhelmed. I probably would have left early had it not been for this WhatsApp group and being able to know where people are going to be, to have people to hang with, to have people to provide introductions. And so that was awesome for us because we're going to go and represent the brands that we work for. He works for SPS. I work for Kroll. We're going to represent the Kindness Games brand. We're going to do some thought leadership, make some appearances, do some talks, all of these different things. But at the end of the day, like, how do we bring people along with us? And what happened and what you experienced at this conference, this can be replicated throughout the industry. This is not rocket science.
Build a community and people will come.
Yeah. And what are we afraid of?
Yeah. And we're in the security industry. What are we afraid of?
Everything, apparently.
Apparently, I was afraid of, I might see somebody that doesn't like me. Oh, crap. What am I going to do? Duck, cover, and roll? Pick cover? It's like, get over those egos. Shake a hand. It's okay. You'll be all right.
You know, that is a good thing. So in our previous podcast that you and I did, we talked about forgiving people and getting past the issues that we've had, right? And that's really important because forgiving other people is not really for them, it's for you.
Absolutely.
Because when you harbor that anxiety, when you harbor that hate, that little bit of rage, like every time that person's name comes up and you're like, oh, that's hurting you. That's the stuff heart attacks and strokes are made of, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you allow that to pile up over every negative interaction you have over the course of a career, you become bitter and just like nobody's going to want to be around you. And then you know, like you said, like, well, what if I run into this person? You know what? What if you do?
Then what?
Why don't you take that time? Treat them like a person. Maybe you can repair a relationship. You know, I'm actually next month, I'm going to be recording with a former colleague of mine who, when we first met, we had a really bad interaction with each other.
Wow.
And then we didn't really cross paths physically for a few years. And then when we saw each other last year, when I saw that his name was on some of the meetings I was going to be attending, and I was like, oh, man.
Heartburn.
This guy, you know, but it was a gut check, right? Because, you know, I had already forgiven him, right? Okay. I was like, you know what? Like we had a bad experience. I actually thought that the entire thing was a huge misunderstanding.
Sure.
And that there were circumstances and there was a breakdown of communication. And I didn't really feel like there was malicious intent on either side, although I felt like he thought I had malicious intent.
Sure.
And you know, I tried to make things right at the time, but it just didn't go anywhere, right? Because we were in the middle of it. But I was talking to Falco, my number 2 at work, and I said, look, man, we're going to see this guy today. And I'm going to make sure that after the meeting, I walk up to him and I smile and I say, hey, it's really good to see you again, and shake his hand. Because I want him to know that I'm cool.
Wow.
Just to let him know, like, there's no beef on my end. We ended up 2 days later sitting down in a conference room for over an hour, hashing it out. And we are friends today. Really good friends today. But that takes 2 people to put aside their egos, right?
Absolutely.
And what do you gain from holding on to that type of malice?
Pride that eats you up, like you said. It's like a cancer that eats away at your heart, and it holds that anger,
and it becomes part of your reputation.
It absolutely does.
Tim hates that guy. Tim hates that guy. After a while, like, Tim hates a lot of people. Not really like a brand for collaboration, right? Not a brand for success.
Right.
What do you think about that, Mark?
You know, I have the same issues being a podcast guy. You know, I didn't know I had people that didn't really care for me until I put a flag up and started a show. And I'm not going to name names, but in the last couple conferences, I thought this person had something against me because he never talked to me. And then ATAP, we talked for the first time. And then again, we saw each other again here at the conference. Hey, Mark. Hey, so-and-so. How you doing? And I did what you did. I decided to put that thing aside, whatever that beef was, start anew. Clean the slate. Clean the slate. Get over it. Be an adult. Be a professional. Show some grace. Who knows what happened that 5 years ago. But, hey, so-and-so. Hey, Mark. Hey, let's just be cool. Because we don't know what tomorrow brings. And that changed. I think that in itself, that forgiveness, opened up my hand versus a fist going into the conference going, how many new friends can I make this year?
Right.
How many people can I give a hug to? And then that happened, those conversations happened to 2 different individuals that I thought had beef with me. Well, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to change it on this second conference. I'm going to change it. I'm going to make a choice to be the better person. Swallow my pride. And hey, you know, I need to serve this industry, not be a leader. Who cares? Serve the lead, serve the people. Not, it's just like, who cares what people think? If we can serve and impact, and you change, you know, because of you guys, you and Lee, you helped me change that perspective. I had to get in that mirror and go, Mark, it's you that you need to work on. But don't worry about the other people. Mark, you need to get through, like, Rocky talking to Creed. That guy in the mirror is who you have to get through. Not anybody else. Get through that mirror. You have to get through Mark Ledlow. And then because of that, I'm like, holy crap, what an amazing experience. I'm talking to people I haven't talked to in a while. I'm like, whoa, man, ego can ruin everything.
And I mean, we're in a remarkably small industry. I mean, if you end up working for a major brand, if you end up working on a major account, you're going to be running across the same people over and over and over again, And so if you're going to lead well in this industry, you have to keep the door open. Because that door is going to open whether you want it to or not. And somebody who you have to work on a project with for a client who's paying both of you is going to walk through it.
So
that
true.
You don't really like.
Yeah. And then you reignited the fire, that passion I used to have in my 30s. It's like, what the heck is coming back? Like, now I remember my identity, why I got in this industry. Because I loved helping people succeed and watch them grow and get their sense of identity and who they were and watch them just grow and become a professional in this industry. That's my passion in this industry. That's why I do what I do.
Yeah.
And it's like, and watching everybody come to the happy hour we then had at the Hyatt, watch you guys come over with the Tiny Game crew, crash the party, and everybody just hanging out on the sofa, having drinks. And we went out to the balcony and everybody's getting along. There was no fighting. It's like, there was no tiff. And that's what I love to do in this industry, is making people, seeing the people uplift each other in a positive light.
I mean, and this probably happens in all industries, but there is a propensity to attract haters in the security industry. Wouldn't you agree? For people to kind of throw shade and be like, you're not that cool. I don't like what you're doing. It's interesting because, this is something that we really should talk about, because it affects a lot of people, especially people who are new to the industry, who are leaders on the rise, right? Who are coming up through the ranks quicker than they're supposed to.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people don't like that, and for as small of an industry as we are, there is a hugely self-protective nature, because I don't want to lose work. I don't want to lose my promotion. I don't want to. But at the end of the day, like, there's more work out there than any one of us can take on.
It's a $45 billion industry last time I checked, security in the United States alone. That's a lot of cash.
Yeah. And no matter how awesome you may be, you can't run an entire security operation alone.
Nope, not at all.
You can't manage a security department or even executive protection or protective intel team alone. You can't even manage vendors on your own, really, depending on the size and the scope of, what type of portfolios you're managing with these vendors. So, like, where does this come from? We talked earlier about that insecurity and security, right? A lot of it does come from there. But when people are just, it's funny because you and I had a conversation and you were like, oh man, at GSX, I saw you talking with so-and-so and that was awesome because, like, I was glad that you guys had mended fences. And I was like, I wasn't aware my fence needed mending. And you're like, oh, well, back in the Kindness Games days, this person was saying like these things. And I was like, that's interesting. Well, first of all, I wasn't aware. But second of all, I don't think that everybody necessarily has to agree with me or affirm what I'm doing. Right? Because I try to have pure motivations. And so even if that person would have said, hey, this is stupid, like you shouldn't be doing this, like I would still be friends with them. Actually, not to name out names, you met one of my friends there who actually, for the entire time we've been doing the kindness games, has been telling me, this is stupid. Like you shouldn't be doing this. This is ridiculous. I
met him.
He has hated it. But you know, the funny thing is at the end of GSX this year, he said, man, he goes, I'm going to do that games thing that you're doing. And I was like, no, man, you don't have to do that. You don't even like it. And he's like, I didn't understand it.
I didn't understand.
But I saw the people that were surrounding you at this conference. These are highly intelligent, highly competent people in prominent roles. And there was no pretense. There was no standoffishness. There was just like, hey, we're together. This is awesome. There was a free flow of ideas. There was like, hey, do you know anybody doing this? I have this idea. Like, what do you think? And he said, man, in 30 years, I've never had these types of people in my orbit in this industry. I just thought everybody sucked. 2 days ago, I met a lady for the first time. We jumped on a Zoom call and she told me, until I met you and Lee, I just thought everybody in this industry sucked.
True.
How terrible is that?
That's horrible. Just for the young generation coming in here trying to figure out what we're doing. It's like, I don't want to be part of that sucky culture.
Yeah, you know, and the thing is, like I said, it's not about us, but one, don't take yourself so seriously. Bring a Capri Sun to a freaking tactical debrief, right?
There you go. Change it up a little bit.
You know, I mean, we take ourselves so seriously in this industry for no good reason at all.
And I think that culture you guys created, like, wow, I haven't seen anything in 30 years like that. And me experiencing that week of just going to Vegas and GSX on steroids, like, this is fun again. I'm having fun hanging with this group of people with the kindness games. They're fun. I'm attracted to this community, this tribe. Okay, that's the tribe I identify with. Why not? And then open talks, communication, collaboration. I like you. I like you too. Okay, we have a common denomination of some values. We like to go play tennis or play frisbee golf, whatever it is. You know what? I got this deal going on. Can you help me with that? But people, you know, I saw so many people trying to sell security. But what they forget is trust is earned. Friendship is earned. Yeah. And then the business comes as a side.
So you saw, you're like, oh, it was a great time. It was like a party every night, right? But a lot of business got done.
A lot of business got done.
A lot of relationships were created. There's been a lot of meetings in the week since GSX.
And the energy I saw on the ground was like no other. I mean, it was crazy because I was also invited by, shout out to Chuck Andrews for inviting me to the Texas night. I'm like, should I do this? I'm like, you know what? I have X amount of people coming by. Why not? Give it a shot. Holy cow. I mean, I got offered some opportunities in Texas that came out of the woodwork because I was present. I was physically there in Texas with you all. And I'm working on some stuff in Texas as we speak because I was there present. And I think, too, people are just done with, you know, they want to be face-to-face. They want that connection physically. Zoom doesn't cut it, folks, anymore. You just can't make a deal happen on Zoom anymore. People want to break bread with you. They want to have adult beverages with you. They want to get to know who you are and your family are and what your values are. And you can do that the best in person. So, yeah, you have to jump on a plane. You got to get a hotel. But those relationships are what brings in revenue down the road.
Right.
Down the road. And you have to play the long game in this industry. And there's I see some people trying to do the hard sell in this industry. You'll turn people off so fast, you won't know what hits you. You got to invest in those relationships. It's so critical, especially in this type of industry. And I'm like, well, how do you do what you do? I'm like, well, A, relationships. Secondly, trust and the rapport and the collaboration. There's so many things in that mixture of creating business.
Yeah, man, for sure.
But go ahead, Tim.
I was just going to say, like, so somebody out there is saying like, oh, great, I can't hang out with Tim and Lee and Mark all the time. Like, how do I create this culture where I work? How do I create this culture within my team? Is it doable?
And I think you have the power of something you can duplicate because you already did it.
Yeah.
Power of duplication.
Yeah.
Create the kindness game, or call it whatever you want to call it, in your organization. And they probably seek out you and Lee's mentorship. So let's say they work at, let's say XYZ company in Portland, Oregon, and they want to do what you're doing, but within their organization.
Yep.
It's just
for sure. We definitely offer the workshops and the services through the kindness games for creating cultures and organizations. But within yourself, you can start with a couple things. One, understanding our common humanity. So these are we have a philosophy called leading with kindness. And these are in the tenets of leading with kindness. It's about infusing kindness as a lifestyle holistically in your work, in your personal life, everywhere you're at. And it starts with recognizing our common humanity. At the kindness games, we define humanity as we all have aspirations. We all have goals, lofty dreams, things that we want to accomplish, right? Every single one of us. And we all screw it up. We all fall short from time to time. We all fail to meet our own standard. So why are you shocked when people disappoint you if you are disappointing yourself?
So powerful, so profound.
Across all cultures, and I actually think across all periods of time, we can define humanity in this way: high aspirations, inability to meet them consistently. And so we need to plan for Mark and I are going to get along. We're friends. We're going to do this business thing. But Mark's going to let me down one day. It's just how it goes. He's going to not be able to make a deadline. He's not going to be able to satisfy every single client every single time. And it's literally an impossibility, right?
That is true.
So how do we deal with that?
The letdowns, disappointments.
Right. How do we design for that?
I think the personality psyche is, oh, you screwed me once, you're done, man. You let me down once, I'm never going to talk to you ever again. But life happens, you know. Someone's kid gets sick, goes to the hospital. I can't make the flight. I got to go to the hospital, ER. You know, wife or partner, if something goes down, life just happens. And I think we are in such, as humans, we go back to what we know. We harbor those experiences and we bring those experiences back to the present. And so when I tell Tim I can't make the deadline, and then I just have a self-fulfilling prophecy of having the experience with somebody else, and I actually act it out because I'm going back on a past experience and I just blow it all up.
Exactly. So we become reactive to the thing that annoys us or the thing that we're afraid of, right? So the number one thing that you can do for yourself is to cause yourself to engage life with curiosity. Ask questions. Be curious. Try to understand another person's position. Curiosity in these moments leads to self-control, because when you are reactive, when that bad feedback comes, when your friend or your business partner or your client walks in and says, I can't believe blah, 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 and you're just completely caught off guard. when they don't show up for you. And you can't even fathom how they could have done that to you. Your brain goes in the fight or flight mode. You start to raise your blood pressure. You start to sweat. You start to get red in the face. And asking questions engages your logical pathways in your brain.
Logical pathways.
Yeah. And it takes you down a path of logic so that you can get away from these triggered emotions.